Morning, warriors, and welcome to Why Shy Why this week. Thank you for joining me today. I want to get into a facet of software development, maybe just for Agile, maybe not, I guess, um, that I'd kind of subconsciously forgotten about, which is technical debt. Technical debt is literally the root of all evil. Okay, maybe not literally, but it's very close. It's adjacently the root of all evil. Let's get into it. Okay, so I just realized I said something is adjacent to the root of evil, but we'll just go with it. Now, listen, one of the things that, so just a really quick recap. Technical debt, guys, is anything that you would need to implement to do that is of a technical nature that's needed by the technology team for the technology team. Let me give you an example. An upgrade of a piece of software that the technology team uses. Say that's a database software. We use a lot of Microsoft SQL Server. Latest version is out. If we want to upgrade to the 2017 version, that would be a technical debt. Okay. Now, there's all different flavors of technical debt, but one of the things what I want to talk about today is the idea that no work should increase technical debt. Now, that's a really hard thing because on one side, I find myself saying, guys, don't over-engineer something, but on the other side, I say to myself, well, I don't want to be in a place where I have to undo stuff, and I want to incur a debt because we do it a certain way here today, right? So this is a really fine line, and it's going to change from team to team, and it should because there's only a certain amount of there's a line for each team that they're going to handle the amount of technical debt, right? Think of technical debt for all you finance managers out there, if there are any. Think of technical debt as an ongoing liability, right? A long-term liability. What is it called? Fixed, maybe? I don't know. Basically, what you have is this account of work to be done that we know has to be done, but we're too busy doing something else, but we'll have to come back to it, right? So it's always there, and one day it might blow up, right? And so what we should be doing is when we're doing the work that should be done, we're trying to get in a place where we don't add to that technical debt, right? Now, this doesn't mean you do things like over-engineer a feature, right? Because over-engineering a feature is actually it's kind of opposite, but it's actually not. What happens when you over-engineer a feature is you introduce a maintenance debt, right? And so that is a type of technical debt. If your feature is supposed to be this thin and you make it this thin, fat, what's going to happen is you now have to maintain this much code for the rest of the life of that product that you're working on, right? But no one ever asked for it, but you still have to maintain it. So if people are still only using this much of it, even if this much of it is out there, right, you still have to maintain the whole lot. That's technical debt, right? So be careful about over-engineering and how it relates to technical debt. What I'm talking about is this. Say you're going to implement a security model, right? And you know that in 6 months' time, it's going to be a username and password and a token, right? But today, what you're doing is you're hard coding it so stringently that it only uses a username and a password because the token requirement hasn't hit us yet. That's kind of a little bit of a technical debt situation. I'm not saying build the token in today. What I'm saying is allow for flexibility in the code that you're writing. Okay, when we start with web apps or even desktop apps or mobile apps, one of the things that I ask my clients straight away is paint me a picture, give me a vision of where this thing is going, because from that, what we get as developers is context, right? And context is so important. The reason why context is important is because for every 3 lines of code or 2 lines of code I write, I'm making an assumption, right? And if I don't have the context of that organization in my mind, in my being at that time, I'm going to make the wrong assumption. You know, that could happen. For example, I've got a client at the moment that works in a really rural part of sub-Sahara Africa, right? And you're sort of like, oh, okay, cool. Get your mind around that. Now, when you look at the project plans and you look at the things that we're building for them, it never comes up where this thing is going to be implemented, right? And that's a huge problem, because one of the key things we know about this geography is that they don't have online access to high-speed internet all the time. Wow, okay, cool. Now we kind of are getting to a place where we have to understand context, right? So when you have context, guys, you make better assumptions. And in this case, the assumption might be that we have to have an offline and an online model rather than just a fully online like you might have in Canada or the United States or Europe or Australia, because internet drops out and drops in all the time, right? Comes up and drops out. So these are things that you have to think about when you're actually trying to um, build something into the future. Okay, that is the idea of future proofing, and that's basically what we're talking about with technical debt. What you want to do is keep it at a level where it's manageable, like most liabilities in an organization. You want to keep it at a place where it's manageable, but you never want it to get too high that the risk outperforms or outdoes the benefit of it. Okay. All right, guys, that's enough for today. Technical debt, adjacent to the root of all evil. Have a good week. See you next week.